Hi everybody, welcome to our first of 5 in our design thinking series where we are talking about how to design learner experiences that drive business results. Today's session is all about the Empathize phase, and we will go into detail on how you can adopt design thinking as a way to create learning experiences that are learner-centric, action-focused, and relevant to your learner population. My name is Brittany Cole. I am the GP Strategies Director of Learning Experience and Innovation, and I will be walking you through this journey, going through practical tips and tricks and suggestions as you adopt this approach to create really great experiences. And really, when you think about design thinking, it goes together with designing learning experiences, much like peas and carrots. The design thinking as a model is all about the end user. And really, as learning professionals, we want to create experiences that are all about that end learner. So how does that work? How can we really think about design thinking in a way to solve problems with that human-centered mindset? And the 5 phases that we'll walk through is going to help you create a journey that our learners are not only going to be engaged, but they're going to keep wanting to come back for more. They're really complementary design approaches, and when we think about the 5 phases and as we walk through, you start with Empathize, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And then future sessions, we're going to dive into define, ideate, prototype, and test. So as we think about the overall process of design thinking, there's really 3 categories. It's 1, know who your learners are. And again, that's what Empathize is all about. And as you know who they are, you're really going to start to uncover what's going on, what's their potential problem, what's their issue, what's that business opportunity that we're wanting to solve. And a lot of other models, as we think about the ADDIE approach or other waterfall approaches, we really take this, guided design and development approach to build a solution, but design thinking really bubbles it up where we really hone in on who our learner population is and what a problem statement is, and then we pour in and we really take action. It's an action-oriented approach. It doesn't go through the traditional alpha, beta, and gold review cycles, but it's all about ideating. Let's try to prototype it to see what works, see what doesn't work. Let's test it out, and then let's iterate and evolve so that we then get to a solution that's really impactful. But before you get into those action-oriented principles of ideating and actually coming up with those solutions that rallies around that problem, you have to know who your learners are. And you have to think about what are they thinking, where are they coming from. And so over the next several minutes, we're going to talk through what we mean by when we say empathize, and then go through some activities of how to really draw out some of those insights from your learners, some ways you can observe them, and really try to see what their job looks like in action. And as we think about this particular step of the design thinking process, it's really meant to answer 4 questions. Who are you? What's your role in this process? Because you may or may not realize it, but you're a learner as well. Who's your end user? And you might have more than one audience, right? When we think about different learning solutions and initiatives that deal with an entire organization, you have individual contributors, you have leaders of leaders. And so it's really breaking down where each of those roles and individuals are coming from. And once you know who they are, really what's their deal? What's their day-to-day look like? And really the most important piece when we think about the empathize phase is meet them where they're at. It's you as a learning professional, as a designer, as a performance consultant, no matter what your role is as you think about training and development, is jumping into their shoes and understanding what's their day-to-day look like. How are they starting their day? What are their tools and technologies that they're using? What are the challenges that pop up along the way? who are those high performers and what makes them so great, and why are others potentially struggling? What's the differences between not just their capability, but really what's their day-to-day look like? And over the course of that time, as you start to really understand where they're coming from, you can start to gain some insights and ideas of how learning experiences might actually help those populations develop themselves and ultimately drive the business. So now let's talk through some ways that we can take those different roles, because as I mentioned before, oftentimes when you think about a training need or a business need that has a component where skills and knowledge needs to be developed, you're going to have individuals that could be multiple roles, multiple levels in an organization, and it's important to map those out and to understand where each of those personas are coming from. And so as you drive towards knowing who your learners are, there's a couple of different ways where you can think about how can I understand what that learner is and what their framework is, and creating persona statements is one way to do it. So as you start to become a good interviewer and empathizer, right, building trust, being a good listener, and just naturally being curious, you can start to see where your learners are coming from, and ideally start to map them across a matrix. And the one that you see on the screen is just a sample one that measures tenure across performance. So this could be all individuals in the same role. Maybe it's a sales role or a retail associate or someone in a call center. And so even though they all share the same role, they might have individuals who are really senior and high performers, but you might have individuals who are brand new to the organization. And your target audience might be across all of these different levels of skill and ability, or it might only be on one or two. And so as you think about, it's not just interviewing one retail sales associate, but it's interviewing somebody who's new, somebody who's been there a while and doing great, maybe been there a while and is just letting it coast. And so as you start to put those personas together, you can start to script out, what are some of their traits, right? Are they arrogant, right? Are they a high performer and they know that they're good? And what does that mean to that overwhelmed new person who's just trying to get their footing and understand what the organization is all about? And so again, this isn't necessarily going to be applicable to every single learning opportunity where it's going to be tenure versus performance, but it could be just it's a way to map who your people are and where they're coming from and what's most important to them. Because really, as we think about what we're trying to accomplish, the Empathize step is going to reveal who those learners are and potentially a matrix of where they're coming from. Because when we think about building learning solutions that are personalized, we might have one solution, but there might be different components, some that are a little bit more directive for those newer in role, and maybe mentoring opportunities that those that are more senior can walk those newer people through. So knowing who your learners are is going to be a direct connection to some of the interventions that you design as part of your learning solution. So now let's walk through a couple different activities. Keep in mind that as a part of watching this webinar today, you'll be able to download this deck and use it as a playbook. And so we're not going to walk through each one in detail, but know that you can take this as some goodness that you can use as you work with your teams. And so when we think about some of the activities, activity one here is, it's again, trying to drive some curiosity. And that might be not just individual interviews, but bringing people together in small groups and ask a series of questions. What keeps you coming back to work at day? What does a great day of work look like for you? And alternatively, what are some of the challenges that you face? What are some of the things that make a not so good day at work? And as you think about putting yourself in that moderator position, Start to listen for, are there trends, are there themes on things that are daily struggles, as well as daily wins. What are things that learners would like to see more and maybe less of? Another activity, and I was alluding to this before, is a key activity that a lot of performance consultants do is they really try to understand role excellence, and that's interviewing high performers. When you think about those individuals who do a great job, who you would consider an expert, it's sometimes challenging for them to really articulate why they're so good at what they're doing. And so really, again, listening to them, observing them, having a shadow day, you can start to uncover what that secret sauce is. In fact, I was talking to a high performer district manager just recently, and he was sharing that he actually built his own custom tool and spreadsheet to help him manage his team and manage their performance. So, what are the things that they're doing that we can actually take and bring out to the collective larger population is going to be especially important in this phase. Some other activities, again, goes back to you just taking a back seat and not asking questions, but just watching, seeing what they're doing, listening to their interactions, understanding what a day in the life looks like for those employees. Other more immersive type activities could be this activity 4, where which you might be in a facilitator role, can give out different words, different emotions to a group of learners, and they can use those words to really act out their response to maybe it's a new project or a change in their work processes or systems and tools. And going through a series of role plays that can, help you understand, how they might react to different situations. And maybe one of the situations is connected to the business need that you're getting tasked with building a solution for. And also it's a way as a group to see how others are working with each other, right? So team dynamics. So these are 4 activities that you can take with you today as a way to empathize with your learner audiences, inform you of some things that you might need to think about as you think about building out a learning solution. Because again, just a couple reminders, if you actually take the time to empathize, and this doesn't have to take too long, right? You can do interviews over the series of a couple weeks, whether that's virtual or in person. But when you start to know who your learners are, you can uncover their preferences and start to actually build some early owners in the solution. When you talk to these users, they tend to get excited that their say is important, and so they can be your advocates down the line when you actually build that solution. Another thing not to miss out as we think about the Empathize phase during the design thinking process is remember the leaders. Sometimes we build solutions for individual contributors, whether that's, again, sales, retail, technical, but a key component of a success of any learning solution is the involvement of that individual's leader. So also consider interviewing and really understanding where the leaders are coming from and how they work with their learner population. And so that's a key piece as you think about who are all the different people that are impacted by a potential solution. And again, it's a potluck, right? This phase drives ownership. The more input you have, the more ultimate buy-in you have. And it's going to enhance your solution because you're thinking about what works for them, what do they prefer, and what really can make a difference in their day-to-day work life. And so that is the conclusion of our webinar on Empathize, which is the first step in the design thinking process. Keep in mind that this is just a snapshot of what we can facilitate for your team or organization around how you can start to drive and understand where your learners are coming from through a series of design thinking workshops. In our next session, we will talk through the define phase and help you go through some strategies of uncovering that problem statement so everyone is aligned on what you're actually solving for. Thank you so much and look forward to having you come to another session.